Well, hey, howdy, hey, campers. How's it going? My name is illfittingtrousers, and today we're going to talk about Adam Conover's TikTok, why he was talking about the Microsoft Activision buyout. So I think Adam in this video brings up a lot of points that are very much worth discussing. Um, I don't necessarily agree with all of it. Point blank here. He is very much talking about worst case scenario in the gaming industry and why I personally believe that we do need to have conversation about worst case scenario in the gaming industry. I think we shouldn't take worst case scenario as I think we need to weigh pros and cons and see which one outweighs which outweighs the other. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about. I think Adam brings up a lot of good points. It seems like he did his research. I know a lot of people, I just reading the comments on his Twitter page is like, oh, he's a PlayStation fanboy. It's like, no, because this was his job like a while ago. He had his own TV show, Adam Ruins Everything, where he discussed things like this in different areas of everything. I think like one of my favorite ones was the TSA. I learned a lot about that, just the inner workings of the TSA from that show. But anyway, let's just hop into the video. We're gonna watch it first, and then we're gonna discuss the rest of the stuff. So anyway, without further ado, boop. All right.
So I've been thinking a lot about how Microsoft just bought Activision, one of the world's largest video game publishers, and I think that news is a lot more frightening than most people realize. Like, I see people worrying, oh, what if they make Call of Duty an Xbox exclusive? But that's not the issue. The issue is that Microsoft can use Activision to undercut the rest of the entire video game industry and build a monopoly. See, most publishers sell their games for $60 or $70, which they have to do because the games cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make and years of effort. But Microsoft has recently disrupted that strategy by introducing a service called Game Pass, where you can get hundreds of games for just $9.99 a month. And now they're buying up game publishers so they can put their games on the service. Microsoft has bought so many game studios that they now own Doom, Wolfenstein, Quake, Halo, Call of Duty, Elder Scrolls Fallout, Diablo, Hearthstone, Overwatch, StarCraft, Warcraft, World of Warcraft, Psychonauts, Guitar Hero, Dishonored, Minecraft, Gears of War, Tony Hawk, and Zork. Remember Zork? So it doesn't matter if Call of Duty is also available on PlayStation. If you can get it for $9.99 instead of $70 and get hundreds of other games too, that's what you're going to do. The deal is just too good to pass up. Now, I can hear what you're going to say next. You're saying Sony and Nintendo just need to make their own Game Pass competitors and make their own games, $9.99 a month. Here's the problem. I don't think they can do that. I think Microsoft is taking a massive loss on Game Pass, and they're able to do that because they are literally 10 times bigger than Sony and Nintendo combined. Nintendo makes video games and playing cards. Sony makes video games and headphones. Microsoft makes video games, the operating system that every computer in the world runs on, and the web services that every website in the world run on. They are one of the biggest companies in the world, and that means that they can use their massive cash reserves to subsidize their video game service forever. It's the Amazon strategy. They can take a loss on every single video game they sell through Game Pass forever until they have wiped out the competition, and Sony and Nintendo cannot do shit about it. Actually, I should say I think Nintendo will be fine, because Nintendo has Mario and Zelda, and everyone loves Mario and Zelda, but I think Sony is fucked. Like, Sony can't afford to make the new God of War or Horizon Zero Dawn game just $10. They need those games to be $70 for them to make a profit that year. Whereas Microsoft is able to lose money indefinitely, so indefinitely that they can sell the damn console and Game Pass for just $25 a month. Now that's an amazing deal, but it's one of those deals that we might later say, ooh, that deal was a little bit too good to be true, because it could mean that Microsoft wipes out all the competition in the video game space and then is able to jack the prices up on us and also make games that are a lot worse. And let's not forget that all this consolidation naturally is going to lead to layoffs and worse conditions for workers. Microsoft isn't trying to be the Netflix of games, they're trying to be the Amazon of games. They want to use their massive cash advantage to undercut and dominate the entire game industry. That is bad for video game makers and video game players, and as someone who loves video games, I'm worried.
Okay, so obviously a lot to unpack in that video. I want to start out with the first thing he said because I've seen so many people say this. And like especially in his comment section. He is not saying Activision um makes Microsoft have a monopoly. He is not saying that at all. He is saying the way Microsoft is buying up companies and undercutting the competition to the point where they can't compete is going to create a monopoly. Which he is right about that. Like if you undercut the competition so much where they can't compete, they have to go out of business, uh create a monopoly. I mean like a lot of people are saying like Activision only gives them like 15% of the game industry, which is true. I believe everything I've seen on that is true. Um, but you also are skipping the point when we talk about consoles. There are only three consoles. There's Nintendo, there's Sony, and there's Microsoft. If you throw PC in there, Microsoft creates, as he said, to the operating system for basically all computers. I think Mac is excluded. I'm not 100% sure if Mac's excluded, but I'm pretty sure Mac has its own operating system. Um, so if we're just going to talk about consoles, they own 1/3 of everything you play video games on. If you're going to add PC, they're going to they basically own a half. I granted I get like they don't make money from like PC. Well, they do make money from PC games, but they do make money from the computers being sold. So yeah, looking at that, um they really do have a huge hand in the gaming industry already. But if you make it where Nintendo and Sony can't compete, then it's basically PC, which is operating system is from Microsoft, and Xbox, which is owned by Microsoft and created by Microsoft. Um, so there again, like Activision doesn't make it the monopoly, but down the road, again, worst case scenario, if we keep going the way they're going, it can create a monopoly. My opinions on the Activision purchase, however, are very different. Um, I don't see anything wrong with the Activision purchase. It's not ideal. I hate the consolidation of the gaming industry, no matter who does it. But like, like Sony's doing it, Microsoft's doing it. Like, you can't just say one of them's good, one of them's bad. Um, it's terrible, and we should look at consolidation the way it is, in my opinion. It is definitely killing creativity and making everyone work under one person's view. Because let's say someone has a great idea at Activision. I mean, I know weirder things have happened, but let's say someone has a great idea at Activision. Um, if Xbox says no to it, then like, but everyone at Activision wants it, then it's a no, right? Like it's a no. We'll never see that idea unless you have people like Devilation Studio. I forgot what they were. There's a new PlayStation studio. But they left Activision to create their own studio. But PlayStation already like bought them before they created a game. Um, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, he does go on to kind of explain his points more and present some facts, which I really appreciate. That was very smart on his part. Um, I will. So let's just start with this first point here. Sony does have a subscription service, but it is primarily for legacy games. Which this interviewer wrote a newsletter that day, where they won't be saying they won't be putting their new games on there because they simply can't afford to. So that's like he just said, evidence that Microsoft is really undercutting the competition. And I think it's hard to argue against Game Pass. I use Game Pass. Game Pass is great for gamers. I definitely stand by that. Great deal for gamers. However, it is not a great deal for competition in the gaming industry. Which sucks. Because if, again, if the competition can't compete, they're gone. They're gone, and then it again creates a monopoly. Microsoft can afford to take those losses. They are one of the biggest companies in the world. And I know a lot of people argue like it's okay, like, how do I put this? Basically, people are like okay with Microsoft buying up the industry like they are because they're third in revenue in games. My opinion on that, which I feel like should be a fact, is that's a red flag that one of the biggest companies in the world is third in revenue on games. Because, like, they just spent $70 million on Activision. And they are third in games. It's not like... granted, they were lacking in some companies a while ago. But in the last year, they, like, doubled their companies. So it's just they basically have double the companies right now with if Activision goes through. I'm like 95% sure. I know there's some search going on, but I'm like 95% sure Activision will go through. However, it's a red flag that the game industry company, or the company in the gaming industry that has the most money is not making the most money because they're not putting anything into the gaming industry. And again, with these buyouts, they aren't adding anything to the gaming industry. You can tell yourself that all you want. But buying Activision, a third-party company that was already making games, so they can continue to make games, is not adding anything to the industry. I've heard the argument that it adds members of PC and Xbox game stuff. No, they don't. You could have already got those games. Get them on Game Pass for cheaper, but in the long run, it's taking games away from PlayStation and Sony. It's actually taking more away from the game industry than it is giving to Xbox and PlayStation players. Anyway, let's keep going to his next point. And before people reply, Sony just bought Bungie. Bungie was sold for 1/20th of the price Microsoft bought Activision for. Let me zoom in on this for you guys a little more. I'm sorry. And Bungie currently makes, check notes, one game. There's no comparison. There is a comparison there. I do not agree with Adam on this part. You cannot justify, and I see this all the time. Everyone's justifying everything this way. But Sony buying Bungie is not okay. Granted, it's not as bad as buying companies by the handful like Microsoft is, but it's still not okay for the gaming industry. like you can't you can't argue pro for one, but no for the other. And I think, granted, like he's talking about IPs when it really comes to this, and he's right. Bungie's really only making one game. Um, and I think Bungie could thrive off big studio money like Sony or Microsoft, or Nintendo or whoever, um, but like you can't argue that it's okay that to buy up the industry on one on like smaller notes and go no to the bigger notes. I do agree one they don't like the Activision one outweighs the Sony one, but it's still bad. It's still bad. Um Next one is, I hope I'm wrong and that Sony and Nintendo and other companies are able to continue surviving and thriving. But even if I am, this level of consolidation is bad for gamers, developers, and the industry at large. The best case scenario is for the Department of Justice to stop it. I agree that the level of consolidation is bad for gamers, developers, and the industry at large. Um, because so like again, gamers. Let's start. We'll break it down into the three parts. He said gamers, developers, and the industry at large. Let's start with gamers. Gamers are going. We need more creative games. I know. Granted, Activision makes Call of Duty or blah blah blah. But what I'm saying is like that this level of consolidation is what we're talking about, not just Activision. Um, the more third party companies we have, the more creativity the gaming industry has. The more creative games we get, that's better for us. The more competition we have, that's better for us. The more competition there is in the industry at large, it is better for the gamers. We get better we get like competitive, if let's say Activision and this is actually kind of a bad example just because they both flopped really hard this year. But let's say Activision actually cared and DICE actually cared and Battlefield and Call of Duty were coming out on the same day. Um they took place in the same time period and they're going head to head, same release day. They're probably gonna put a little more effort into those games. Um, if we get companies that care. But you need the competition to get companies to care. So that is one of those things. Um, and if we get more companies in there, it creates more competition. Like imagine, a small company comes up and makes a better a better Call of Duty or a better Battlefield or a better whatever. That would be good for the industry. Developers, yeah, developers. With more companies, more jobs open, more competitive jobs open too. Developers can actually work up work up the ladder. If they don't like where they are, like aka Activision, they don't like where Activision is. They get to show off their work to another company and get a job there. If we have more third party companies, um, it's gonna create that. So like let's just say Xbox doesn't change anything at Activision. I'm not saying that. I really think they will. I 100%. That's like my favorite part about the Activision buyout. But let's say nothing happens and I'm shocked. Um, it's harder to get that when they own so many companies. It's harder to move around the like the industry when it's like you left Xbox and Xbox buys the company you just moved to or whatever. Or same with Sony or same with Nintendo or Tencent or whatever. Um so I think, I do think those levels would be really good to have. Um Again, I already touched upon the industry at large part, but um when there's more creativity flowing through the industry, there's also going to be more money flowing through the industry, which is going to fund that creativity, and like that's what we need as a whole. Um the part where he says the best case scenario is for the Department of Justice to stop it. Uh, I know I just said all that stuff about third party industries, but I personally don't believe Activision is as big as a deal as everyone is claiming it to be. I think it's just starting a chain react. It's part of a chain reaction that's already started. That's my problem with it. Like we are building to the point where it's scary, and we don't want to hit the point where it's scary. Where it messes up the industry and it's a lot of issues to fix it, and gaming's just kind of dead for a bit. Um, so I don't necessarily think in this particular case the Department of Justice needs to stop it, but I do understand why they are looking at it and why it is why they think it could harm the gaming industry, because a lot of the things Adam said there were right. Undercutting the competition where they can't compete, and buying up the industry at the same time is gonna mess up the industry and like make them not be able to compete. On that note, here's a great thread from Matthew Stower on the coming sea change in merger enforcement of the Department of Justice and the FTC. It's very good news. This basically just says right here, U.S. antitrust head will look to block deals that lessen competition. Um, yeah, that's that's great. Again, I'm very curious to see what they will say about this Activision buyout. Um, and who knows why they said this. They could say it to make themselves look good. Doesn't mean they'll follow through. We kind of, how government crap works. But I am interested to see how people, when they're like, we want to block deals that like mess with the competition badly. Um, so I am interested to see what they have to say on this Activision buyout. But well, I again, I'm like 95% sure nothing will happen. I'm like, again, 95% sure that Microsoft will own Bethesda, or Microsoft will own Activision. They already own Bethesda. He also goes on to say right here, Microsoft is only the third largest company by revenue. Is literally a talking point Microsoft is spreading to try to evade regulation. Sony's market cap is 146.2 billion. Microsoft's is 2.38 or 2.38 trillion. Microsoft is 16 times larger than Sony. Their cash on hand exceeds Sony's entire value. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Third largest company by revenue is bullcrap. It's a red flag for them buying up all the competition. Like they own titles, they own IPs. They own, like, not only that, but like imagine what if we took the $70 billion that went to the Activision buyout, right? Let's take that money and go, hey, you know what the gaming industry needs? More studios. It needs more studios. It needs let's take some of this 70 billion and we'll spread it around a couple of our studios, right? And then we'll take the rest of it there and create like 4 or 5 studios and hire creative people with amazing ideas. You call them in, call them up for an interview, and first question in the interview is, what ideas do you bring to this company? And you hire based off that. Genius. Genius. We'd have such a wonderful gaming industry. And if you took all those companies and you made them exclusive, no one would care. You know, no one would care. Because they haven't created anything yet. They haven't done anything yet. Right? But when people starts to care is after those games have come out, after they see the creativity, and after, yeah, and creativity is an investment, and sometimes investments don't pay off. But Microsoft can afford the investment. Microsoft just bought Activision, a company that is literally the grossest company in the gaming industry. People say EA, yeah, they're close, but Microsoft, like, Activision is scummy. Like, their higher ups are scummy, and you spent 70 billion on them. Like, when you could have invested in creativity and made the gaming industry so much brighter. Anyway, guys, that is all I have to say on the topic. What are your opinions on it? I do love to hear your opinions. I know I probably said things not everyone agrees with, and that's fine. Um, I do, I do thank you guys so much for sitting through this whole video. If you made it this far, you guys should hit that subscribe button. I talked for like 27 minutes, almost half an hour. I do appreciate it though. And we will see you next time. Bye.